This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses, where time seems to go off script and madness is just another room down the hall. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, sound specter, and someone who knows where the exits are before walking in. Let's get into it. There's a particular kind of silence in winter. Not like a peaceful silence or a stillness, but hollow, like something waiting to echo back. The Overlook Hotel is buried in that silence, a monument to a past no one remembers, eerily devoid of life. It radiates a haunting sense of wrongness, making it feel both unreal and profoundly empty. From the moment Jack Torrance arrives at the Overlook, a tension coils beneath the surface. The space hums with artificial calm, like the hotel is performing normalcy and waiting for you to believe it. Played by Jack Nicholson in one of the most unsettling performances ever captured on film, Nicholson brings a twitch of danger to every glance, a barely restrained fury to even his quietest moments. He animates Jack Torrance with equal parts charisma and corrosion, until we're no longer sure what's performance and what's possession. Jack Torrance carries within him a heavy burden, an emotional and psychological frenzy that is visibly frayed and unstable. This inner chaos seems to resonate with the very walls of the Overlook Hotel, as if the building itself is eager to recognize and amplify the volatile energy he brings with him, fueling the sinister atmosphere that permeates the building. Jack doesn't arrive at the Overlook as a blank slate. He carries with him emotional scars. His past wounds, marked by deep-seated anger, overwhelming self-loathing, and a fragile barrier between his thoughts and impulsive violence, are ingrained in his every step. The Overlook doesn't simply mirror these internal struggles. It actively feeds on his damage, amplifying his pain, and making his internal conflicts even more intense and palpable. The hotel has been waiting for someone just like him. Someone whose cracks can be widened, whose guilt and addiction and rage can be reassembled into something monstrous. The Shining isn't a ghost story in the traditional sense. Instead, it's a haunting exploration of a descent into madness, woven with themes of recursion, repetition, and visual deception. The hotel itself is a sprawling maze of twisting corridors and hidden secrets, symbolizing the character's unraveling mind. Jack is already lost. He just doesn't know it yet. The Shining is a quintessential example of postmodern horror, where traditional narrative structures deceive and take us off target, causing the meaning to disintegrate and collapse. In this unsettling landscape, the mind itself transforms into the eerie, haunting setting, blurring the line between internal psychological landscapes and external environments. At the heart of postmodernism are three disorienting forces: fragmentation, hyperreality, and simulation. In The Shining, all three elements are intricately woven into the narrative, yet none provide a clear resolution, leaving the story steeped in ambiguity and unresolved tension. We begin with fragmentation. Nothing in this film fits together smoothly or seamlessly. The geography feels disjointed, the timeline jumps unpredictably, and the characters seem disconnected from one another, creating a patchwork of incompleteness throughout. The Overlook works to dissolve the fragile bonds between Jack, Wendy, and Danny. Shelley Duvall's performance as Wendy is raw and utterly believable. A portrait of someone trying to hold a family together while slowly realizing she's already lost it. And Danny Lloyd, in one of the most quietly powerful child performances ever captured, embodies a kind of haunted awareness. He knows what's coming, but he can't escape it. When Jack resists the hotel's pull, it doesn't confront him directly. It whispers. It isolates. It resurrects his past mistakes, reminding him of the night he hurt his son, fanning the flames of his guilt until they burn into resentment. And when guilt doesn't work, the hotel offers something more seductive: importance, legacy, and power. Suddenly, Jack's not a failed writer and struggling father. He's the caretaker. He's always been the caretaker. If fragmentation pulls the story apart, hyperreality traps us inside the pieces. In postmodern terms, hyperreality occurs when the simulation or representation of something becomes so convincing and pervasive that it appears more real and authentic than the actual thing it imitates. It's not a trick of perception. Rather, it's an illusion that effectively supersedes and replaces reality itself, blurring the lines between what is real and what is simulated. That's what The Shining does with perception. Instead of simply showing us the presence of ghosts, it evokes the very idea of ghosts. Not just as spectral figures, but as echoes of the past that refuse to stay buried. Haunting isn't always supernatural. Sometimes it's memory. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's the version of yourself you tried to forget. Jack's ghosts aren't limited to the Overlook's hallways. They live in the bottle he once swore off, in the moment he hurt his son, in the shame of a career that fell apart before it ever began. These are the things he carries through the door of the Overlook. Kubrick never really explicitly spells out the meaning behind the Overlook and Jack's descent into madness. He doesn't need to. It's implicit. The connection between them is felt more than explained. The hotel doesn't serve as a setting. It actively recognizes Jack's growing instability. Not only that, it amplifies and feeds into his madness, heightening the sense of claustrophobia and inevitable destruction. Jack Torrance isn't just taking on a new job. He steps into a role that was already waiting for him. He fits into it too well, like a final piece in a puzzle that's been waiting to be solved. Jack was already descending into chaos. The Overlook cleared the way for his inevitable breaking point to emerge. By the time he speaks to Lloyd at the bar, he's no longer a man being haunted. He's home. Simulation in postmodern theory is more than illusion. It's the replacement of reality with a scripted version of it. Not a representation, but a stand-in. A replica that becomes more real than the truth it obscures. And The Shining is full of these replications. The blood pouring from the elevator isn't a distant memory. It's a disturbing simulation, an overwhelming trauma too complex to be named, too deeply buried to access easily. Instead, it's projected outward as a visceral, horrifying spectacle, a gruesome display that forces its presence into the world. We never see Jack break Danny's arm. But we hear about it. We feel its weight. And this image, the unnatural deluge of blood, might be the only way Danny can process what he endured. The woman in room 237 is another replication. First, she's young, seductive, then decaying and grotesque. Two versions, neither of them real, just extremes of fantasy and revulsion. Jack walks into a performance of desire turned to horror. Wendy's visions in the final act aren't hauntings. They are stagecraft. Skeletons in a ballroom frozen in mid-celebration. A man in a bear suit locked in a disturbing tableau. These aren't echoes of Jack's memories or glimpses of Danny's future. They are the Overlook, peeling back the skin, showing Wendy what it keeps hidden. There's a moment halfway through the film when reality tilts, quietly and seductively. Jack, angry at having been accused of something he didn't do, wanders into the Gold Room ballroom. The bar is empty. The room is empty. His wallet is empty. The world has abandoned him. And then...
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance. What'll it be?
And just like that, the fiction begins to perform itself. The Gold Room is no longer just a room. It becomes a stage, and Jack steps into his role like he's been waiting for the cue. Lloyd, the bartender, played with a quiet darkness by Joe Turkel, appears, with elegance, routine, and lack of reserve. He's not a ghost. He's a function. This is simulation in full effect. Not a haunting, but a Faustian exchange. Power in return for blood. Kubrick didn't just direct The Shining. He meticulously constructed it as a complex, layered masterpiece. Rather than presenting a straightforward story with a clear beginning, middle, and end, he designed it as an intricate architectural riddle, a postmodern monument that embodies perpetual uncertainty. Nothing in the film offers a neat or definitive resolution. Time itself becomes warped and distorted. Motives collapse under the weight of ambiguity, and the supernatural elements seamlessly oscillate between psychological realism and supernatural phenomena, blurring the lines between perception and reality. And perhaps this is the very reason why The Shining continues to resonate with audiences over the years. It takes familiar genre conventions, haunted mansions, isolated settings, sinister forces, and hollows them out from within, transforming them into cold, echoing chambers of dread that are dangerously unstable, always shifting just beyond comprehension. In Jack, we observe a profound transformation. We watch a man gradually shed his former self and emerge as a complex character, embodying both helplessness and darkness. Over time, this character eclipses mortality to become an enduring legend carved into the collective consciousness. Ultimately, this myth becomes part of the architecture that consumed him. In the surreal and meticulously crafted world Kubrick builds, madness isn't simply a fleeting break from reality. Instead, it embodies reality itself. Stripped of illusions, exposed in its raw, unvarnished form. Its cycles are endless, recurring with unforgiving consistency. And all of this unfolds through a cinematic lens, emphasizing the hypnotic beauty of chaos and order twisted together. Postmodern horror is about the relentless cycle of the same fears, echoes of dread that resurface again and again, not just in the stories we tell, but in how we experience them. The terror isn't new, it's recycled, recontextualized, and looped. Like Jack Torrance swinging the axe in 1980, or Norman Bates smiling into the camera in 1960. These moments don't just end when the film does. They linger. They repeat. They haunt the genre the same way the Overlook haunts its guests. These terrifying experiences unfold behind different doors, altering their appearance but never their essence. They manifest in different lives, haunted by the persistent presence of the same underlying dread. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying truth of all. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Don Lawler.